when you're ready.
I'm on.
Okay, we're live.
We're on.
Okay, very good. Well, what we were just thinking about was that a year ago when I came down to record with Scott Kidd, my sound engineer, and right now he's the videographer. He's the man behind the camera. If you hear a voice, that's Scott's voice. So when I arrived, I was totally terrified. And we were going to be recording 90 poems. I was going to be reading 90 poems, and I just didn't know if I could do it or not. If my voice would be good, or if I would have the stamina to do it. I didn't know what the process was like. It was just really scary to me. It was moving into this whole new territory of, digital audio. So I was so glad to have, Scott by my side doing this all. And so I don't know if Scott knew all this, but he did this very intelligent thing. And so one of the things that we did to warm up together and to warm me up, so to kind of chase the fear away, was Scott has this wonderful dog. Show them the dog, Scott. It's a wonderful dog,
hey, Tucker.
And so Tucker's thing is he loves to play. Let me bring a close up with the toys here so they can see the toys. Okay, so there's, oops, sorry. That's your toy, I know that. So there's a rabbit, a stuffed rabbit here. There's a really floppy frisbee, and there's a ball here, rubber ball. So since I've arrived, Tucker has brought in, first there was the frisbee, then there was the ball, and then finally there was the rabbit. So it's clear that Tucker really wants to play. And in a little bit we're going to go out and play with him, so you can kind of see and recreate that moment a year ago. Now, Scott, did you know I was terrified? Did you do this like on purpose?
A little bit. I mean, I felt, your unsureness, and just trying to, I don't know, it's like anytime you want to make someone feel comfortable, you just do what feels natural, and I think that's what we did. We just tried to, get comfortable and get to know each other before we started on this project that's very important, to you. And yeah. I think it worked out cool.
It did work out very well. So Scott really brought me into his world and welcomed me into his home and his world. And we went out to eat sushi together. And then when we came back, Scott said, okay then, let's go.
All right, so this is my casual setup here at the house. Just a little audio interface and
show the board.
And the computer. Just, leveling faders and pans and volume and I'm monitoring the classic boombox because a lot of us listen to us on small speakers or headphones. And, here's just, a little
show them Daddy's carving.
Oh, yeah. This is a little carving of Janet's dad that he did. And, I ended up picking this one because I'm a dog man. And, it's perfect. And I leave it up and it reminds me when I'm working of, past projects and, just something cool to have too,
Exactly.
So we just kind of have a simple mic setup and a pop screen to, when you're recording vocals, when anything that has a P, it's like a plosive, so it that helps break the wind, and we just mic stand and and there's the final product.
There's the screen, right?
Yeah, and that's the pop screen. And the final product is there, and she basically read from the book here, but that's what all of the hard work was to get there, and
So I was really surprised at how simple the setup was, and so since I had been a musician in my life for many years, it seemed very familiar to me to have a music stand and to read from and have my book there. So after Scott kind of broke the ice with me and warmed me up, so my terror was gone, then we began to work, and our process was very simple. I just read from beginning to end all 90 poems, and I would be here, Scott would be just at my elbow over at his work setup that you've just seen. And I just read most of the poems just straight. This Tucker growling.
Tucker.
We didn't have Tucker.
He wouldn't growl during our project, but yeah. What do you think, buddy?
We're letting him sit in on this session.
Yeah, he's hanging out on this session though.
So I just started at the very beginning of the book and read straight through all 90 poems. And then later on, we interlace the music into a kind of really elaborate collage. I would start reading, and for the most part, I hadn't practiced or rehearsed beforehand. I've been doing talks on these, and so I had a pretty good sense of how I wanted them to be read and be presented and paced. And that way it felt more spontaneous. All I was focusing on was being present with each word in line in the poem as much as I could be. And if I felt an emotion, I just allowed it to come up. I had also been a little afraid that, I might choke up or something like that. But in actual fact, that only happened once, and we just stopped, and I went, washed my face and came back without any fuss. So the nice thing about Scott is that he's so present and responsive in how he works. And therefore, I would just read, and then if I made a mistake, we didn't even discuss this. We just developed this as our working process. So if I made a mistake, I just stop and re-say the word or re-say the line again, and he would make a mark on his sound bars like you just saw, so that he could see that later, how that was something he was going to have to repair and weave in again. And then we'd finish the poem, and you held up your finger or something, or
I don't remember.
What did you do exactly?
I don't remember. I think I just so I was like poem to poem. Oh yeah, I would just like cue you and say, okay, let's do the next one. That way,
right.
I was just marking them so I could name them and keep track of them, because it's a lot of material, and just keeping track of everything and keeping it organized.
Exactly. So then, at that moment, then I'd pause, and then he'd say, okay. He wouldn't say anything. He'd just like hold up his finger or point to me, and then I go on to the next one. And so we obviously had to take breaks in this 2-day recording session. We're going to estimate that each day was about 4 hours of taping on each day. So it was really quite a lot of material. It's 90 poems, but many of these poems are very long story poems. And so it was quite extensive. And then the other thing, how we did the record keeping, because Scott mentioned, like, that was a very important part of the process. We had recorded in Daddy's parlor music with his music group, and that was recorded on a mini disc player of the type that they used to have for NPR, Journalists in the Field, and PBS. And so then we just had let that session run, and that had picked up not only the music, but also my father's very natural and off-the-cuff fooling around, or jokes, or stories. And also we had pre-recorded my father reading his own poems that appear in the book, and then I had also arranged for him to read poems with me, so that we had, in my father's own voice, lines in the poem that I had written for my father in my father's voice.